the next thing I want to tackle is where I'm going to put the battery. And as I stated in the beginning, in the introduction video, I want to get the battery from its original location, which is right here, and I want to put it in the trunk. And the reason being is I got the engine all covered up because I'm working on parts of the engine, but the air conditioning unit is going right here, and it gets set a little bit further apart according to the calculations I had. I don't have the bracket yet, but it'll be here soon, but it's going to be somewhere around here. And so when I simulated it, I found that the compressor, the actual pulley area, is going to be touching the battery. And I can't have that because, well, you just can't have that. So anyway, I decided that I'm going to move the battery into the trunk. And one of the things that I needed was to find out how to make or simulate a battery in the front. And what I decided was getting some posts and putting it right on the inner fender where the battery was supposed to be. Right here sits the battery tray, and on the bottom here there's two holes, and that's where I bolted up the battery tray. Well, instead of the battery tray, I'm using these posts, which are going to be the new battery for the engine bay. And the way I'm going to carry the power is with 1/0 wiring, pure copper. So I went and I spent the money on getting pure copper, and I got some tinned ends, and they're 3/8 inch, and that's because I want to connect them to here. The original battery cables are going to be modified. I'm going to cut them, and I'm going to put those ends on the battery cables, so that way it connects directly on the inner fender. And that's going to be the power for the engine, as well as anything else that I want to put power to. And of course, I'm going to start grounding a little bit more things, like possibly ground the frame. I'm going to ground the body. So I'm going to put a little bit more grounding points to just make it a little bit more efficient as far as current flow is concerned. And so to bring the battery power to the trunk, I needed to figure out where I wanted to route the wiring. And I decided that I want to route it in the original area I had routed my wire for the heater motor, which was here previously, because over here is completely hidden, and it's basically behind the fender. When the inner fender is here, it's gonna come down here, and these wires, I'm gonna have them come out through here and up and over the inner fender all the way to right over here. The other thing is, the unit, the air conditioning unit's wiring has to get into the engine bay. So it's also going to come in through here, and it's going to go all the way down here and connect to wherever it needs to connect to in the engine bay. So what I did was I made a template. So you see here, here's a template. And the kit, the vintage air kit, came with some grommets. I'm going to show you here. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, it came with these big grommets. Now these grommets are supposed to go on the radiator support panel, and of course it came with 8 more that are for the hoses. So you see there. So I have one extra because I don't want to use it for the radiator support. So I decided that I'm going to put it right here. Now you notice I have a square hole, and this thing is circle. Well, because I'm limited in space, the reason why I went ahead and made a template was because this is my first template. I wanted to get the little grommet to be oblong, basically like this. And that would provide enough space for the 2 1/0 wires and all the other wires that go for the unit. So I'm going to silicone that whole area, since now it's all fully cut, and give it a nice coat of a lot of silicone, and then I'm going to put the grommet in and seal the grommet to the firewall. That way I don't have any issues with water. So I'm going to take care of that right now. So I'm doing a mock-up of the power and the ground wiring. I figured I'd show you this while I'm also mocking up some of the other lines as well. So here are the 2 heater lines, And the way I'm going to route it to this bracket here, the way I had it planned originally, because I'm going to like the way that looks. And it's going to go to its spot, the intake manifold and the water pump, which is right there. So that's going to be good. For the power and the ground, they're going to be routed to right there. So you see, this is where the battery was originally. So it's going to work out pretty good, and the air conditioning compressor is going to be right here. So now it's totally out of the way. And so I'm going to have my ground, I'm going to have my power, and it's going to be routed over and then into its spot. And I'll show you that right now. That's where it is. And you can see the grommet. You also see that under the black wire there's a little bit of a space, enough for some more wires, and that was the plan when I had it oblong, which is how I ended up making it, so that I have enough space for the two 1/0 wires and all the other little wires that goes for the air conditioning unit. And then when I have all these hoses on there the way they're supposed to be, when and I'm going to push it more over, you're not going to notice it when you're looking at it. So it's going to be totally hidden. I'll probably put some wire loom over that just so that it blends in, because everything is black down there. So I'll probably do that just to hide it a little more. And I'll show you how it is on the interior, how I have it routed through the car. So you see it comes out the firewall right there, and it's at the bottom, and it'll run along the floor, along this channel on the side here, all the way, and it'll enter through here, through this channel. So what I did was I cut here, and I also, with a hammer, banged this down so that I give a little bit more clearance, because I wanted the wire just under this, just under that, when you're stacking them together. Now, in order to get the two wires, the Nova had these clips for the molding that goes on the floor, and so the sill plate. So I cut them off, and I noticed that it has like this little, I don't know, this little curve, and when you put it on, it actually locks into place really nicely. See? And so it's really on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spot weld it back on, and it's going to hold the wires in place. And notice that I have the ground wire under where the screw is, and that's just for safety, because we wouldn't want a screw piercing into the power wire and then causing a big problem. I'm going to put a shield on top of the wire to ensure that, but the screw would be a very, very short screw, which will probably be custom cut. Same thing with this side. I cut it off and put it there, and it's routed through there all the way to the back. I'll show you what it looks like in the back. So now it's going to be coming through there, and I'm going to attach it to the side here all the way across, and then here's the battery tray. Now I used the two existing bolt holes just like it was up in front, so it's bolted to the floor. I added another one, and then I used some L brackets, and I used the original bolts that were on the core support, so that way I have it exactly like it was on the front of the car, and it is completely sturdy. Now, in order for me to fit this on here, you see that there's this bump. Well, from here to here, I had to take my 3-pound mallet and flatten that down so that I can have this plate nice and flat. So there it is. So back here I'm going to be changing the battery to an Optima battery, because I don't want a wet cell, which is what these are. I want more of a dry cell, a sealed unit. That would make me feel more comfortable. So that'll be one of the things I have to get. So there it is. So I got it all mocked up. I have to do a little welding for those tabs, and I have to put this plate here, and I'll show you what it looks like once it's on. See if I can align it right there. So basically it will be like that, And in the wires, you see that the sill plate actually extends out, so the wires are going to be nicely behind there, and you see there's still some space, so it works out perfectly. Perfect. So there it is. It'll be completely hidden, the wires. And that's pretty much it for the routing. So yeah, it's gonna be like that. So now I gotta take this all apart and put the ends on there and solder them, and it'll be good to go. So when I remove this inner fender, I'll give you a look-see of the grommet there, a little closer look, and that'll be done. So I got the inner fender removed, and now you get a better look at the grommet. And you have there the 2 wires for the power and the ground, and then you have a little space on top of the power wire, and that's for all the wires that's going to come from the air conditioning unit into the engine bay. And I'll show you the bundle that's supposed to go. This is the bundle right here. Where is it? And this is the bundle, and I taped it off so that I can get a measurement of what the bundle is you know, as far as thickness is, and it fits nicely in that space. It's not too tight, but it's nice and snug, so it'll be easy to wire it through that hole, that remaining hole in the grommet. So now I'm gonna work on getting it all finalized and do a couple spot welds on the inside of the car to bolt those down, and it'll be good to go. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.